Welcome in to WagerTalk's Last Call. I'm Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas. We're broadcasting all over the place this morning. WagerTalk YouTube channel, TikTok, Instagram, I believe their Twitter, and of course my Twitter. We're going to take all of your questions here. This is WagerTalk's Last Call, where we discuss big bets, biggest needs, some steam, and of course, taking all of your college football questions here on this beautiful Saturday morning. On the lineup today, we've got DiCesare from the Westgate Superbook. We've got Yanni the Greek coming in from his, we'll call it his office, where he's breaking down all of the last-minute bets for the sharp guys that he moves for. And, of course, we got Bryan Power. We haven't seen Bryan Power in a while. Excited to have him on. If you guys have a question, drop it in the chat, because this show is solely based on your commitment to using those fingers, whether it's the like button, the subscribe button, or, of course, any questions you guys have for our prospective guys coming on the show. DiCesare, hands-free today from the Westgate Superbook. Good morning. We finally got John Murray to get that tripod set up.
Yeah.
It is 8 a.m. there on the West Coast. Tell me what you guys have been seeing as of late morning action there at the Superbook.
Well, let's just start with the early games, the 9 a.m. games in that range. We actually need the under in the Ohio State game. Total was bet from 51 sharp action all the way to 54.5 now. Not often do we need a total. Not that it's a crazy decision, but it is an early morning decision. We're going to need Clemson. Sharps took NC State at 19 and 18.5. That's now 17.5. We'll need Rice. Sharps are all over Army. They laid that at 5.5. That's now 7.5. And probably the lowest one on the board, but still a need, West Virginia. John Murray's West Virginia. We took some Kansas money at plus 2.5. That is now 1. So that's a little bit of a need, too, for us on these early 9 a.m. West Coast games.
That's good news for me. I laid 2.5 with the Mountaineers early in the week, and I had a feeling we were going to see some KU money coming in. I should have waited. But now that Illinois won last night in Lincoln, do you think you're going to see even more Kansas money trickle in this morning?
Yeah, you could see it. There's no doubt about it. It seems like, and even, too, when you look at the ticket count, it's almost like 60, 65. Kansas ticket count to the West Virginia ticket count. So it's been a steady flow of Kansas money. And that probably could continue. That game could get to pick. And we all know what happens when I have a reverse CLV trophy. That's usually good news for me. Unlike last week with Purdue, where I had 10 and close 7.5. All right, let's move along to the afternoon games. I know we have a lot of college football to play today. Yeah, there's a ton. I mean, this is an interesting one. This Virginia-Coastal Carolina game, it's an 11 a.m. game, so almost noon. But we've had sharps on both sides. Early in the week, they were laying UVA -3, -3.5. And then we saw a lot of Coastal Carolina money came in at 4. We need Virginia, despite the early sharp money that came in on Virginia. There was just such a bulk of the bets that came in on Coastal at +4. So that's pretty crazy right there. Louisville is going to be a need. A lot of Georgia Tech money, +10, +10.5. Louisville now sitting 9.5. We were like one of the only 9.5s sitting on the board, probably still sitting on the board there. Iowa State we're going to need. Arkansas State took money at 21.5 and 21, so that's Iowa State now -20.5. And then probably the game of the, well, not the game of the week. I mean, Tennessee, Oklahoma, but this is the other game of the week. This is a crazy game. When you look at USC opening as a 6.5 point favorite, all the Michigan money that we took, it's now down to 4. And then the summer look-ahead line on that was Michigan -7.5. So it's basically flipped 2 touchdowns. It's been a crazy flip on how the power rating's gone up for USC and how it's gone down for Michigan. So you might be getting a buy low spot on USC with all that Michigan money that came in, because, I don't know, USC just feels like they have too many athletes for Michigan.
They do, and I just can't trust this Michigan team. A lot of people have said, Kelly, I can't believe Michigan's not in your parlay. I can't believe Oklahoma's not in your parlay. I know we'll talk about Oklahoma, Tennessee here in a minute. I just think at some point in time, you need a team to pass the eye test, and that is not something that Michigan's been able to do for me. You mentioned Miller Moss. and the athletes on the Trojans team. And that was why I didn't get involved with USC, because that is his first true road start. I know he had the neutral site game there in Las Vegas. So ultimately I stayed away, but interesting to hear that you guys will need USC in that one.
Yeah, we will. I mean, when it opened 6.5, and then you saw, I didn't think that the Sharps would want to back Michigan, or that respective money would come in on Michigan, but I was wrong. It did come in, and that's moved to 2.5 points. So goes to show you, we don't always get it right as well.
It happens. They still have to play the game on the field. Let's talk about that big time marquee game in the SEC. It sounds so weird to say, but Norman, Oklahoma, you mentioned how the other line has flipped 2 touchdowns. This one has almost flipped 2 touchdowns. I made Oklahoma 1 when I finished up my power ratings at the end of July. I know that we saw very early on, I believe Oklahoma might have been -6. Now to see Tennessee all the way up to 7.5. We've seen Oklahoma money come in. I know this game is, 12 hours away. Not exactly. It's 8 hours away. But what are you guys anticipating early on here is going to be your need for tonight's big marquee game?
Well, it's pretty good split action. And you're right, Kelly. When you look at like a look ahead summer line, I think we had Oklahoma -4. So, I mean, we had Oklahoma as, over a field goal favorite at home, and now they're a touchdown dog at home. But you're right. When it was 6.5, it went up to 7.5. So the Tennessee money came in. Then the buyback came in on Oklahoma. I think it's going to be pretty good split action. I think we'll probably need Oklahoma in the game if I had to speculate moving forward. I think the big thing is the public's going to bet the over. 57.5, they're going to look at that. They're going to look at Oklahoma always has a good offense. Tennessee quarterback's hot. So I think they're going to look to play the over in the game. We'll probably need the under, because I think eventually the public will come in and just start betting what they perceive to be a low total of 57.5.
I would agree with that. All right, since you guys are not asking questions in the chat, I'm going to ask some of my own selfish questions that I do here to Art every single Saturday, and most of them are games you don't want to know about. All right, Easy Baby, 1988. Hey, guys, what side are you leading in the JMU North Carolina game?
Well, North Carolina money has come in this morning. That was 10. We're now at 11. So, and it's funny, too, because early in the week it was UNC money. Then there was a little bit of just the market move the other way. Not that necessarily we took James Madison money, but we got back to the original number at 10. And then this morning the UNC money came in and we've moved the point.
Art, I don't know if you can answer this question, but it just popped in my brain because I feel like a lot of people say this. So just because you guys didn't take UNC money, sometimes you guys will move a number. They sometimes, we'll call it the arrogant handicappers say moving on air. I don't disagree that you are moving on no bets versus trying to get ahead of the market. Can you kind of establish why certain sportsbooks like to do that way as opposed to just keeping everything in-house?
Yeah, it's a great question, and that is the proper term. We always say moving on air. I know a lot of us want to be ahead of the market and don't want to sit there with a stale number, especially if something's like 11 and 11.5, and then we have a really respected guy come in and let's say take James Madison at that number, whereas everyone was sitting at 10 and we didn't move quick enough, or we weren't, just paying attention where we didn't move. You never want to get there. It happens, but it really is good to establish that in the beginning where you're like, hey, we'll move on air on things, and then hey, if respected bets come in, they come in, and then we can move the other way. That always is going to happen. But I know I've learned from the guys in the back room, like Ed and Jeff and all these guys, that, like, don't be afraid to move on air. It's not the wrong move.
Okay. I always find it interesting. Anything on the Navy game? Dave is taking the words right out of my mouth. Art, I know you guys took Navy plus 11. I remember texting John Murray on Monday. I said, oh, I really like Navy. And he goes, well, you just got beat. And sure enough, I log in and it's 9.5. And I'm like, well, I'm not getting beat any further. But we haven't seen this one move since. Still sitting 9.5 there at the Westgate?
Yeah, it certainly is. And like you said, it was the early money that came in this week on Navy. Memphis has been a good team. Obviously their win against Florida State's not that great. And now you got to prepare for the option. So interesting that Navy took all that money. They are at home. And there's been a little bit of over money that came in on that game as well.
Okay. So no big decision, or you guys are going to need Memphis?
I mean, we'll probably need Memphis in the end. It's not something that's like a crazy decision. There's definitely a lot more games that we'll have our eye on. But, listen, there could still be some more that comes in. But right now, yeah, Memphis will be in need.
I know you gave us some of your early needs, but Ryan Bretcher wants to know, what's your biggest liability today?
Wow, what would be our biggest liability? You know, Purdue. Oregon
Oh,
State. We've taken a ton of Purdue money. I mean, 4.5, 4, and we're sitting at 2.5 now. Purdue is right there. They're up there. I'll throw another one out there, a game that nobody's going to care about, but we're going to need UConn. A lot of FAU money came in at plus 1.5. They were taking plus money, on the money line as well. When it spreads in that 1.5, 2 range, people are going to take shots with plus 120, plus 125. That's another one you could throw out there. BC, going to be a need for us as well.
damn
A lot
it.
of Michigan State money. Yeah, going to be a lot of Michigan State money. Plus 7, plus 6. We're now at 4.5 on that game. So that's another one.
There's one of those CLV trophies I told you guys all about, 6.5 and plus 240 there. And I know that my parlay is up there at the Westgate, so that probably doesn't help either. Carlos Casillas wants to know about the Army game. I believe you touched on that earlier. You said you guys were going to need Rice.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that was sharp slate 5.5 early in the week. We're now at 7.5. As far as the early 9 a.m. games, I would say Rice and Clemson are our biggest needs.
Okay. All right, guys. Any more questions from the chat? Mark S. wants to know, can Archie pull off the upset at Auburn?
Interesting game. We've seen actually respected money on both sides, laying the 3, taking the 3. We basically haven't moved off of it. I mean, it's gone, swung a half point here and there all week, but that is a game that's pretty much been dead on 3. I don't love this Arkansas team, but I don't love the Auburn team either. I think I would lean Auburn, but I don't love it.
Yeah, I didn't end up on that game, and we can talk to VR here in a minute or two to see if maybe both different groups that he moves for bet it at different times. I always find it interesting when the sharps are split decisions. All right, Mac Hudson, I was waiting for him in the comments because, of course, I have USF plus 16.5. See, I don't always get the best of the number, guys. 17 pretty much there across the board. You guys 17 there at Westgate, Art?
We actually moved to 16.5 this morning. It was sitting 17 all week, but that's another one where it's not that popular of a game, and it's not that it attracted a lot of money. That's kind of one of those on-air things. You see the market start moving. You don't want to sit there with a stale 17. Not that, once again, that's a key number, but if you're the only 17 out there, you will get popped.
Yeah, that's true, because John Murray has expressed to me for years about the board cleaners, right? They're going in and they're scooping up their pennies. They're just taking the stale lines and trying to find some sharp stuff. All right, Chevy Bra wants to know, is there sharp money in the over in the Maryland-Villanova game? Talk to me about some of these FCS Division II type games that we're still seeing here later on in the season. You mentioned not getting a lot of traction on what I think is going to be a great game, USF Miami. Do you guys get any money on these smaller games?
Extra games, FCS games are only sharp and board cleaning mark. I mean, that's all. You don't see general public people bet them unless you're going to say, I went to Villanova or I went to Maryland or I'm an alum of those teams and I'm in town for the week and I just want to have $100 on the game. The only time you see people bet that is if the numbers are off market or a sharp guy comes in and lays it. And you see those totals move. They're wild. You can open a total at 44 and within an hour the total could be 48. So those are games that move very quickly.
They do. It's similar to college basketball. I've seen, on the WagerTalk odds screen, I've had it open and been like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
You blink your eye and the total moves 3 points. I can imagine that because you're only getting one-way action, kind of like the WNBA. Now we're starting to see some more rec action come in, but a long time, very sharp market. All right, I'm going to let Art get out of here, you guys, at Art Dice 21 every single Saturday here at WagerTalk's Last Call. We appreciate him taking time out of his busy morning. He's the best. Biggest needs, biggest bets, biggest liabilities. These are going to be another fun-filled Saturday. We're going to bring in Yanni, the Greek gambler. You guys know him from the UFC. You guys know him from Bet On It, giving us that gold. Let's see what gold he's got for us on this beautiful Saturday morning.
Good morning. Good morning. A lot going on, Kel. A lot going on. A lot of totals are getting hit right now. The sides pretty much are balanced out. Most got hit earlier in the week. A couple take backs later in the week. And when the public knocks some of these lines out of whack, you'll see some steam come in like we're seeing already this morning. But it's a lot of the totals. A lot of the totals are what's getting hit today after being moved in one direction a little earlier in the week. So interesting to see how they're setting up the board each and every Saturday now.
I know we've got a busy morning for you, so I'm just going to let you run. If you guys have a question for VR, drop it in the chat. If it is more of like a situational type of thing, we're going to save it for Bryan Power because VR's got about 44 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah, a lot still to move, a lot still to bet, especially a lot of those team totals and stuff like that. I'm actually going to share two that came in right before I jumped on the air with you. Two team totals. We bet Coastal Carolina under 24.5, laid a little juice to get to 24.5, and also under 24.5 team total in the USC game. Now, we don't have a side or total in the full game for USC, but we did bet the USC team total under. Unlike Coastal Carolina, where we steamed the under 55. In fact, I sent out a 4% play on under 55 earlier in the week. And then today came back and bet the under 24.5 again in Coastal Carolina. So they really like that game to be low scoring, definitely at least on the Coastal Carolina side. Now, move down to Marshall, Ohio State, under 55. Michigan State, Boston College, under 44.5. Kansas, West Virginia, under 58. And then Rutgers, Virginia Tech, over 44.5. A couple sides for you. Ohio, plus the 20 over Kentucky. BYU, plus the touchdown, but not getting any respect. I can tell you, I was surprised this isn't off that key 7. So definitely some resistance with other sharps, like in the Kansas State side. No surprise there. South Florida, picking off 17s and 17.5 where they're available against Miami. Tennessee minus the 7. We did see some take back on Oklahoma earlier today, if not late last night, at the plus 7 at even money, because I think Tennessee was juiced a little earlier as one of the sharper groups did bet them earlier in the week to push it to 7. Georgia Southern, Ole Miss over 67.5. TCU, SMU over 59. Drop down to Oklahoma State plus 1. Wyoming plus 7. LSU got bet early in the week at 24, got bet up to 25. Then you saw a bunch of money on UCLA all the way down to 21. I took a bad number. I'm sitting on LSU minus 24 ticket in my pocket, which is a bad bet. So now I'm just hoping to be the product of good luck. Trying to get out ahead of the market. That's going to happen sometimes. But if 7 out of your 10 tickets are in a better number than what it closes, you're doing a good job. Finally, Navy plus 10.5. Gave that to subscribers at 10.5. I think the 10s are even going now, probably 9.5. So it's on you what you want to do. But we also took under 48 earlier this morning. So that bodes well for a low scoring game if you got Navy plus double digits. That's some of the stuff going on so far this morning. Gave you a little bit earlier on bet on it earlier in the week. A lot of action today, Kelly, and even more tomorrow in the NFL. Thank you always for having me.
Yes, we always appreciate you popping on. I know you are super busy because, well, you have the Steam Room going on every single Saturday and Sunday, and sometimes you're doing both. And I find
and today it's free. It's free today. And I'm going to get the second, that Division II extra game stuff. It comes in, Kel. I can't use it for subscribers because the lines move too quickly. And I know not everyone has enough books to be able to get down with some of those extra games. So I don't use them for premium plays, but I share them when able to do the Steam Room on Saturday. And that's what we're doing today. It's free to everybody. So jump in, ask any questions on any game. I'll share all the info I can. You could ask for Sunday NFL ahead of time since tomorrow it's only for subscribers. And we'll be firing live probably in the next, 90 minutes we jump on. The next hour I'll be on 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Just jump on. It's free today. Johnny sent out a link. So check that out at WagerTalk Twitter.
WT.buzz/SteamRoom921 is going to be the website. You guys can jump on. Free Steam Room today with Ace. VR, we're going to let you get out of here. I know you got a lot to do before kickoff. We always appreciate your insight, and we will see you tomorrow for the NFL. Time to bring in a guy we haven't heard from for a while. He's been really busy doing the morning show over there at WagerTalk with our good friend Mark Zeno. Bryan Power is coming in to answer all of your college football questions that we didn't get with either Art or Ace. And so there was a question that we had earlier, BP. We're going to start from Instagram. Johnny VW4 wants to talk about the Michigan State game, which I think is interesting. Art came on and said, hey, Cal, I think we're going to need the other side. And I'm like, wait, what? No, I have a beautiful CLV trophy, 6.5 with Sparty. Why would you say that to me? Talk to me about this Michigan State defense and why they're going to lose by double digits now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Kelly. I did refer to you as the incomparable Kelly Stewart when I hyped my appearance on the show on the Power 5, so that should get me a longer leash here. I would come back at BC on this price. You know, Michigan State is 3-0 for the first time in forever. Hey, who knows? Maybe there can be a middle. I don't know. Maybe you can win. But yet, 4.5, I would come back at Boston College. It's the red bandana game, a little bit of emotion in the stadium, a bit of emotion, quite frankly. And you know, BC, I think there were a lot of eyebrows raised when they got to the top 25. Obviously, that win over Florida State isn't as impressive as we thought it was at the time. But I think they're actually a pretty good team, and this number is too short. I didn't have a problem with the opening number, to be honest with you, in this one. And now that it's come down, yeah, I think it's time to come back on the favorite. The book's needing Boston College. I think maybe the books might be kind of happy with this one. Sorry.
Son of a biscuit. That is not what I wanted to hear this morning. Jameson Hoover, thoughts on Ohio, Kentucky? Sandwich spot for Kentucky with Ole Miss on deck for the Cats. Talk to me about this one. I know Ralph broke it down on WagerTalk today, WagerTalk today, as well as bet on it. And I thought, oh, that was interesting. I couldn't believe that he came in on the Kentucky side. I know not everything is situational, but I have not been impressed with the Cats this year.
No, 2 weeks ago, obviously, it was just a shambolic performance against South Carolina. Now I was too scared to take them against Georgia last week, Kelly, because Kentucky historically scores no points against Georgia, and they didn't score many points, but they stayed in that game. These are two now. Ohio, obviously, I know them well. It's my alma mater. This is a team I expected to not be very good this year. They've been better than expected. They lost everybody, including the great do everything quarterback Curtis Rourke, who's now playing for Curt Cignetti at Indiana. I wouldn't want to play either of these two sides because you talk about the situation with Kentucky coming off the Georgia game and they're going back into SEC play. Do I trust them laying this many points? No, I do not. But this Ohio Bobcats team, Kelly, this is not as strong a team as we have seen out of Athens in recent years. I would be look, I had Northern Illinois against Notre Dame, and that was great. I know Bowling Green competed against Penn State, okay? Historically, though, these MAC teams do not do great when they're stepping up in competition on the road. So I know that it is the least favorite answer of everyone in the chat. I would leave that game alone.
Okay. We're going to leave that one alone. BP, what do you think about Tulane money line? Theo Green wants to know. I've heard a lot about this Tulane game, and maybe that's because they gave K-State kind of a dogfight, if you will, there in New Orleans, and then played really tough in Norman. And Oklahoma obviously slipped away there at the end and got the cover, but a lot of love for the Green Wave.
I like the other side. I like Louisiana here. I think it's a terrible spot for Tulane. You mentioned the two games they're coming off, Kelly, Kansas State and Oklahoma. To turn around and play an in-state team like Louisiana, this is a bit of a letdown game, I think, potentially for them. And Louisiana's coming off a bye week. This Raging Cajun squad, not as strong as they've been in previous years, but I just like the spot for them. You see the way the line has moved. I think there was some buyback right before we came in on Tulane, maybe. Did I see that correctly before I logged on? But yesterday, I think this was down to 1.5. I like the Louisiana side here. Situationally, it's a great setup. They've had 2 weeks to prepare while Tulane has been given their all against top teams and coming up short. So Louisiana's how I would play that one.
All right, getting some more questions here from the chat. We appreciate all of your guys' participation today. Chevy Bra, the Louisville Georgia Tech game. Do we think Louisville covered the 10? I was not happy to hear that the Westgate needed Louisville. Georgia Tech, I went back and forth, BP, between Northwestern. Can they win on the road or can Georgia Tech win on the road? And I ultimately went with Northwestern against a very defeated Washington squad here. I was not happy to hear that the Westgate was going to need Louisville this morning. I thought, man, that is not usually good news for me. Your thoughts on this one? Maybe I bought in a little too much on Georgia Tech.
In terms of the side, I would look at the Georgia Tech side. Look, you're getting, I think where there's the most value in college football these days is unranked road teams against top 25 opponents. I just think, there's a few situations maybe we'll hit on today, home dogs, that you're just not getting the value you used to in years past. So, yeah, I would co-sign the Georgia Tech side here, Kelly, but I'm on the over in this game. I'll give it out. It's a client play. Now, I don't like the way the numbers moving this morning at all. I'm going to tell you that because I got it at 57.5 earlier in the week. It went all the way up to, I think, 59 and a half in some shops. It's come back down a full field goal. But I talked about this on Wager Talk today a few weeks ago. Georgia Tech's defense, that's the concern I have with the Yellow Jacket side. They're not as good as advertised. They should have given up way more points in that Georgia State game. There was a lot of luck in the red zone. I think there were 3 different drives Georgia State had inside the Georgia Tech 20, and they came away with only 3 points on those 3 drives. And then they gave up 31 Syracuse in 3.5 quarters. Louisville, they have not really faced anybody yet. Austin Peay and Jacksonville State. Now, if you want something to get excited about with Georgia Tech, Kelly, Haynes King, the quarterback, he is second in EPA per play in all of college football, trailing only Ole Miss's quarterback, Jackson Dart. So this Georgia Tech offense is really good. I have my concerns about the defense. I think both these teams are going to move the ball at will, and I like the over in this game.
All right, points not going to be a premium in that one. Brian Power said, Missy wants to know, who do you like in Virginia Tech Rutgers?
I came into the year not as high on Virginia Tech as everybody else. I thought they beat a lot of weak teams down the stretch, which inflated people's perception of them. Greg Schiano is doing a great job at Rutgers. Say what you will about the guy. This isn't up. I lean Rutgers a little bit in this game. Again, I just think it's this. I need to see a complete 60 minutes from Virginia Tech. I know it's a short number. A lot of people, there are, I think, some buy low spots on the board, short favorites today, but Virginia Tech's just not one of them. I lean towards the Rutgers side. Very disciplined. They don't allow a lot of negative plays on offense. They don't get behind the sticks. I like that, plus the 3.5, obviously. You can lose by 3 and still walk away a winner.
I do believe, and I have not written it down, but I do believe Joe Ranieri is on Rutgers for what it's worth. Link.
Oh,
there
he's so mad right now. He just threw something in his office when I endorsed his side. I know he did.
Spoken. He is on Rutgers. All right, Link for real wants to know, Gators on the road trustworthy? Hell to the no.
Yeah, what?
Okay,
Kelly,
let's talk about this garbage dumpster fire of a game, because I haven't talked about it all week. You know why, BP? Because no one wants to talk about it. But this is literally a flaming pile of dog shit in a dumpster on fire getting shoved down the street. Like, that's how bad this game is. We have Billy Napier, who I'm shocked still has a job. They open as 4.5-point road favorites. They now are 6-point road favorites to a Mississippi State team that cannot beat anybody. I mean, they are so awful. Break this one down for me, because I'm like, this has all the makings of like, could be, I don't know, just super dramatic down to the wire.
Kelly, you and I both are willing sometimes to hold our nose and take a really stinky team. There is no, you couldn't pay me. You couldn't give me the money to make the bet on Florida in this game. First of all, I don't like road favorites anyway. So the idea of Florida laying 6.5 away from Gainesville is just horrible. But Mississippi State, they are probably the worst team in the SEC. And by probably, I think I mean definitely. They lost to Toledo last week in Starkville. Now, Toledo, if you don't follow the MAC closely, yes, they're usually a power in that conference, but Toledo was not impressive at all the first 2 weeks against UMass and Duquesne. I know people that laid the double digits with Mississippi State in that game. They lose outright. That is a horrific loss. Mississippi State, they're in a first-year coaching regime. So the coach there said, but yeah, you're right. Billy Napier, it's just a bad situation when the guy knows he's on the chopping block. And if you forced me to take a side, I guess you got to take the points, right? Because, again, Florida laying points on the road just sounds awful.
I mean, if you are going to force me, it's no different than the FSU Cal game. I did a show this morning with BetQL, and they're like, Kelly, if you have to pick, which Florida team are you backing? I'm like, I guess if you're going to make me pick, I'm going to at least take the better coach in Mike Norvell. But I love this Cal team. I love this defense. I actually wouldn't be shocked to see them go in there and get another win against FSU, who's apparently just has no desire to win football games.
They have not won a game, FSU, Kelly, since CT Betts and I paced about 7 miles on the floor of the Encore Sportsbook in Boston last year in the ACC championship game, just hoping and praying that a third-string quarterback could get us home. And he did, but haven't won since. What a moment in time that was.
BP, another Matt question for you. Hi, Brian. Question. Kent State is plus 48 versus Penn State. Can't see Penn State covering such a big number, even though Kent State is horrible. I mean, look, West Virginia made Drew Aller looked like he was going to win the Heisman. So I'm not going to be here for any Penn State slander. 48, ton of points. I actually would need to see. I'm curious who Penn State has on deck. I do not have their schedule open in front of me.
I will look that up in a second. But Penn State's the worst team in the country. You cannot take them. I mean, maybe it's because I'm on here. There is a team getting more than 40 I would look at a top 10 team. I'll give you this stinky one. Louisiana Monroe getting 44.5 at Texas. I think Texas might be a little fat and happy today. A lot of things got to go right. The problem with taking even this number against Penn State, Kelly, and you know this well, James Franklin will absolutely run the ball at the end, into the end zone and get that backdoor cover. And Kent State, did you see what happened last week against Tennessee? They were down 60-0 at the half. At Tennessee, look, I've drank at Kent State. It's a wonderful place, quite frankly. But I mean, the things Tennessee was doing to that team last week were really mean. They were doing onside kicks in the first half, calling timeouts to score. Kent State is a corpse. You cannot play them under any cert, not even in the first half, not anywhere. They're awful. They're worse than Kennesaw State. So that's a stay away game for me. But if you're looking for a big, stinky 40-plus point underdog, I would look to Louisiana Monroe. It's actually my free play on my page, wt.buzz/pp, because I think Texas comes a little fat and happy. Arch Manning, not Quinn Ewers starting at quarterback.
Oh, I love that little inside info. I did not even look at that game because I'm tired of losing money against Texas. All right, Maryland game, BP with the cute Frenchie in the profile picture. Oh, really quickly, Penn State does have number 24 Illinois on deck. So also something else, little asterisk. I do agree. James Franklin will punch it in. That is how he behaves, but maybe kind of a flat spot here where they start to put in the backups early. We will see. This Maryland game is going to be really interesting because Maryland has kind of taken a downward turn, if you will, over the last couple of weeks. Now they get to beat up on what? An FCS school?
Yeah, here's the thing, like Maryland. So what did they lose? They lost to Michigan State. I know that surprised a lot of people, but
it surprised me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think that was in your video, right? I remember that now. But here's the thing: Maryland. What do they always do? They beat up on the non-con, then they get into the Big Ten and they lose. That's just the story of Maryland ever since they've been in the Big Ten. So honestly, this is one. I've got no take on this one. I mean, if you want, it's usually lay the points with Maryland in the non-con, and then they completely fall apart in the Big Ten. That's pretty much the story for Maryland every single year, and I expect it to be no different this year. In a bloated Big Ten, a much bigger Big Ten than normal, Kelly, I expect them to finish in the bottom half, but this should be an easy one here.
All right, guys, we've got 27 minutes until the noon games kick off. If you have a question for BP, drop it in the chat. I'm kind of looking at some IG stuff here. Sorry, guys, I keep neglecting you because you don't pop up on my screen. Rican LaFleur wants to know USC, Michigan. This is another game that I just left off my card, BP. I still have a little bit of PTSD, if you will, from Michigan in that Texas game. They just were so flat. They couldn't get anything going. Harbaugh leaving, all of the allegations, all of the transfers, all of the stuff that they went through in this offseason. I thought they would be behind him, and it wasn't. Now you're asking Miller Moss on his first true road start to come in with all of those weapons. I will say this. Art DiCesare told us at the beginning of the show, for those that just joined, they will most likely need USC. They took a lot of money, not necessarily sharp money, but a lot of money on Michigan. And I'm going, you're not getting my money, Michigan. I'm not saying I'm going to lay it with USC either.
So I did a video for this game earlier this week on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. The line was still 5.5, and I said if you're going to take the side, I did say take Michigan. You know, they've made the change at quarterback to Alex Orji. What they're going to try to do, Kelly, it's no secret, okay? They're going to try to slow this game way down, fewer possessions. It's going to be run heavy. They're going to, offensively, Michigan's going to resemble a service academy today, for crying out loud. Now, the interesting thing with USC is if you believe in some of these long-term trends, obviously now they're in the Big Ten, so they're going to have to go east a lot. They haven't won a game in the Eastern or Central time zone in over a decade. Now, the key for Michigan is, and I think I heard earlier on the show when I was logging in some discussion about USC team total or something. In fact, Michigan does not have a chance if they give up more than 24 points in this game because they're not going to score a lot. And other than that Texas game, Kelly, where there was a lot of turnovers leading to Texas points right before the first half, that's where that game went awry for the Wolverines. Michigan has given up more than 24 in only one other game since the start of the 2022 season. So it's got to be the defense that keeps them in. So I actually kind of like that. If you like Michigan now with this number coming down, it makes me a little squeamish. I do kind of like the look at USC under the team total because that is Michigan's only chance of staying live in this one. And it is, Miller Moss was great for us in the Holiday Bowl last year, 6 touchdowns. But let's see how they perform in this. They could have lost to LSU, Kelly, and then Utah State had a backup quarterback. So I don't know how much exactly we know about this USC team right now.
That is very fair. I would agree. I was on USC plus the points. SMU, TCU, this is not a game that I've talked much about. Both teams not doing the greatest this year. SMU kind of got brought back down to earth by the team that plays my Wildcats today, BYU, on that, I think it was a Friday night game a couple of weeks ago. Your thoughts here, and any more questions, because I'm going to wrap it up here really soon.
2 disappointing teams. I think everyone except Miami has been a disappointment of the ACC so far this year. Well, not Cal, the Atlantic Coast Conference stalwart Cal, but SMU has been obviously a disappointment. This was a team that was very good the last couple of years in the AAC. TCU, I worry about them coming off the result last week, blowing the big lead at home to UCF. This is a rivalry game. For those who don't know, I believe it is the Battle for the Iron Skillet. I'll have to double check that, but I think that's what they call it. I would look at the dog here, SMU, if I had to play it. I think, coming into the year, I had them rated as the better team. So getting points, I just think would be the best option in that one.
All right, guys, let's see what's left. Not a lot left here. No more questions from the chat. BP has been crushing football. Right now, number 1 at WagerTalk, BP?
Yep. We're doing well.
Very proud of you.
68%. Thank you. I learned it all from you. Now, 68%. Yes, I did. 68% in NFL and college so far this season. Kelly, we're coming off a 4-0 sweep in NFL week 2. Got a little lucky on a couple of them with the Commanders and the Falcons, but hey, sometimes you get unlucky, and it's okay to get lucky a few times. And we're 4-0, all sports the last 3 days coming to the weekend. And wouldn't you know, on Fill Your Card Saturday, Kelly, I am releasing my first 5% max bet of the college football season. It goes this afternoon. So head on over to WT.buzz/BP. And Mark Zinno would be very upset if I didn't mention soccer here on the program. We're number 1 on the pitch since April. I've got a Premier League play for tomorrow morning as well.
Oh, soccer. I will not complain about you handicapping soccer like I do to Adam Trigger. All right, before we leave, I want your thoughts here, BP, on the big marquee game that everybody wants to know about. Tennessee, Oklahoma. I have gotten a ration of shit for the whole week. I can't believe you're not on Oklahoma. This is a total KIV play. Blah, 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 blah. You are like me. You like those scrappy home underdogs. Away dogs have been very good to us as well. But tell everybody why you're not getting involved with Oklahoma.
All right. Now, history says it's probably a good time to take Oklahoma and punch back on this Tennessee team, okay? Oklahoma has not been a home dog since 2016, Kelly. They have not been a home dog of 7 or more since 1998. When I was a freshman in college and making much poorer decisions than I do now. That is true. I'll tell you what, they're saying I'm lying on the headphones, but I am not lying. That's how long ago it was. I was a freshman in college. I would take, if I planned to play this game, Kelly, I would actually take Oklahoma, believe it or not. Tennessee's win over NC State, that doesn't look as good as it did at the time, right? NC State can't get out of its own way. I will say this. If Tennessee covers here, Kelly, when they go to Arkansas next, I'll probably be on the Hogs yelling "Woo Pig Suey."
Yeah, I like that as well. But I would agree with you. It is Oklahoma or pass for me at this point in time. But man, I just cannot trust this team. I watched part of that Tulane game last week. I was really shocked that the students were leaving. Like, come on, you guys. And that is really concerning. I know this is going to be a college game day atmosphere. It's going to be a different scenario, but almost unexcusable when your fan base is leaving in the third quarter.
I mean, I still have Oklahoma power rated as top 15, top 20 team. So to be getting 7 at home now, I have aggressively moved Tennessee up. That's the thing, last week in the NFL, everyone came on the YouTube channel was like, oh, you can't overreact to week 1. You can't overreact to week 1. And that's very true. In college, though, Kelly, with the transfer portal, I think the key is to aggressively move either teams up or down based on what you saw. And Tennessee, I think the question is just how far up we should move them. They do have the look of a college football playoff team. I have them and 4 other SEC teams plus Ohio State as 6 teams rated significantly better than the rest of the country right now. But again, laying 7 in Norman, it's been a long time since somebody could say they did that. 1998, like I said.
That is absolutely insane to me, and I still don't have the footballs to bet Oklahoma. As I tweeted yesterday. All right, last question before I let you go. K-State, BYU. I'm hearing all of this sharp money supposedly coming in on BYU. I'm going, BYU is projected to finish in the bottom 1/3 in the Big 12. BYU beats SMU on the road, and all of a sudden is this powerhouse football team. The flip side, Kansas State looked really good on Friday. I was at Errol Epstein's birthday in New York City. I made them put the game on the TV, and then I proceeded to be obnoxious for the first quarter, and then it was all she wrote. I mean, K-State, after that special teams touchdown, after a couple of really nice run plays, basically ran away with the game, and then I got to settle down and not ruin everybody's dinner. But this is an interesting one. We're talking high altitude in Provo. K-State's got to be feeling a little fat and sassy here. I still made this game 9.5.
Yeah, I couldn't get there on the number either. I know it's hard. It's a late start, obviously, out in Provo as well. You'll be happy to know, Kelly, I do have Kansas State projected to make the Big 12 championship game this year against a team that maybe you wouldn't think that they would face, UCF. Those are my 1 and 2 in the Big 12 right now. It is a tough spot. I have a question for you, actually, because I knew this game was going to come up. So I had Kansas State against Arizona myself last Friday. That was a nice 4% best bet winner. I just think Arizona's defense stinks. But, you talk about that game in the second half. What happened? It was a lot of the play would just break down and Avery Johnson would just run wild, and Arizona's defense, who, again, stinks, just had no answer. Is that a sustainable blueprint to move the chains week? As I was watching it, I'm like, this is nice. Arizona's clueless. They can't tackle. But I'm thinking about when you go against the Utahs, the Oklahoma States of the world. He's got to do more as a passer, doesn't he? And this is on the road. So in my head, that's what I was thinking. You just can't let the play break down and scramble for 10 yards every time. It works one week, but it can't work over the balance of a season. That's my concern with this Kansas State offense, at least from what I watched last week.
The good news is they're not playing Utah this year, and the better news is they're not playing in Stillwater this year. So to answer those 2 questions, yes, that's exactly what they're going to do, because that almost cost them the Tulane game. When the pocket collapsed, when the play just absolutely failed, part of it was the play calling. But even Tim Fitzgerald, who's a good friend of mine, owns GoPowerCat.com, literally said, he goes, Avery, you looked a little hesitant out there. And he came right back with that Arizona game, and he goes, did I look hesitant? Because he has the ability, KU fans like to joke that he's a glorified running back. Fine. Then we have 3 running backs. So be it. And if he can hit DJ Giddens in the, in the flat for 10 yards when he's supposed to be running the football and not playing wide receiver, I don't care. I understand it's not sustainable, but as of right now, it's working as they're trying to develop him, not only as a quarterback, because remember, he's only 19 and or is he turning 19? I think he's turning 20 in November. Not only that, but he's also got 2 guys, DJ Giddens, who is going to be all Big 12 running back, Dylan Edwards transfer, who's been his best friend since they were little kids. He's got 2 guys he can trust, while these wide receivers that are young, and while this defense does make mistakes, these guys have that athletic ability. I think they can take over the game. Is it sustainable long-term? No. They're going to fuck around and lose to somebody like West Virginia, and I'm going to be very angry. But as of right now, it should work. So hopefully, as I say that, the loss does not come at damn near midnight tonight.
Yes, so there's nothing worse than staying up late and having to see your favorite team lose. So I think they'll win the game. I guess, I don't know, if you forced me to make a play against spread, it would be BYU plus the points, but it didn't make my card. One I just wanted to sneak in one more recommendation, Kelly. Navy first half against Memphis. Ooh. Did I see in your video correctly that you like Navy for the game?
Yeah.
Okay. So if
Navy
you've missed the best,
let me get in there.
If you've missed the best of the number already, here's the thing. Our good friend Mark Zinno always likes to say, if you're not covered with some of these underdogs, if they ain't covering early, they ain't covering late. What are service academies not built to do? Come from behind. And let's quantify that for a second. Service academies as underdogs in the first half, I talked about this on the Power 5, 90-57 against the spread. That's 60%. So I think if you've missed the best of number and you're looking to play that Memphis Navy game, because it's a terrible spot for Memphis coming off the win over Florida State, I would play Navy because you can get a better number in the first half. So that's how I would play that one.
You're absolutely right. Navy +6. Just lock that in. Thank you to Bryan Power at Bryan Power Wins. WT.buzz/BP. As he mentioned, he has a 5% play up over there, as well as being number one right now in football at WagerTalk. That's why we have him on Last Call. We reward the guys who are kicking ass. Tomorrow we'll be back for the NFL. Joe Ranieri is going to be in the host chair for me because I'm going to Broncos at Bucks. If you guys are there, shout out. We'll be around in some WagerTalk garb, giving out some freebies and having a great time. BR is going to be back. Chase Michelson from the Westgate. And you guys seem to love him, so I'm not kicking him off the show. We got the Prez coming back to answer all of your questions. This has been a WagerTalk's Last Call. I hope you guys have a very profitable Saturday.